here right now. All right, welcome here, everybody.
Yeah,
Give it a few minutes.
all the fun stuffness.
Mm.
Oh boy, that was a warm day.
Yeah, I felt like it was warm here, and I think it got to, I think it was 6 above 0 last I saw. I don't know what that.
Oh gee, isn't that just toasty?
I don't know what that converts to.
And don't you think it would be nice if we could just balance us? I
Yeah.
mean, we're talking like 40 degrees then. That sounds beautiful. Are you
Yeah,
guys on Celsius or are you on Fahrenheit?
we're on Celsius, so
So
I
you
don't
have
know
to
what.
do all the math.
Yeah.
Or I should do the math since the rest of the world is on Celsius. And yeah,
Okay, 30 is your like.
32 is frozen.
Okay,
32 is
so
your zero.
40-ish Fahrenheit,
Yeah.
probably. I don't know.
That'll be tonight. It'll get down to 40, but it'll be back up again tomorrow because desert,
Yeah.
the life of extremes. But you have snow, and we haven't gotten snow this year. It's sad. It's like, where's our snow? But we haven't. We only had like 2 days of rain in the last 9 months. So
Wow.
yeah.
Well, it's an ice death trap out there right now because everything's melting and then freezing overnight, and it's a hazard.
Ice is scary stuff. I don't like the ice.
Yeah.
I
It's
always feel like PEI has like a nice balance because it gets really cold and snowy, but not treacherous and indefinite.
yeah.
They've got the whatchamacallit, the coastal stuff
Yeah.
to help.
Hmm.
But I always think snow and the ocean together is a really cool contrast. Someday
Yeah.
I'm going. I was supposed to go 2020. I guess it was last year. I was supposed to go with Liz Johnson and her group that were going over to PEI and doing all the PEI stuff. But that was after Kevin's accident, and I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to. I don't know how this is going to go.
Yeah.
So I didn't register, and I could have gone. Yeah. Oh
That's
well.
too bad.
It's like, couldn't you have stayed sick longer? No.
How's he doing?
He's doing great. He still has a few brain things that aren't quite normal, but unless you know him crazy well, even some of the kids don't see it sometimes, and it's not consistent. So hopefully that's still healing. He had two very, very bad brain bleeds. Either one could have killed him. So,
Yikes.
the fact that he's got a brain at all, I'm happy with.
Yeah. If you guys don't know, Shatona's husband, he was biking
Yeah,
last Christmas-ish and got hit.
he got hit by a truck.
Oh, yeah. That was crazy.
Yeah, it's craziness. So yeah, but I didn't get to go, and that would have been cool. She's talking about doing it again. I hope she does. Crossed fingers, toes, and
Yeah.
someone who knows the islands to kind of take you around. That would be kind of cool.
That would be cool. Okay, well, we're here to talk about Anne of Avonlea, talking about the islands.
Because islands.
Because islands, yeah. I've never been to the east coast of Canada because every time I look up flights there, I'm like, oh, that's what it costs? It's the same price, if not cheaper, for me to go to England. And I'm like, well, I'm going to go to England. So, yeah. So I don't know if I'll ever get there.
I wonder what the cost is for me,
Yeah, I have no idea.
Hmm.
I don't. Yeah, sometimes I wonder if it'd be cheaper, like coming from the States and going to Canada, like going up there, if your flight would actually be cheaper than mine.
Yeah.
I don't
Now
know.
I'm tempted to check. I think we paid almost $700 to go to England. I think. But I had to get to Charlotte, North Carolina for that because I was going with a couple of gals from Tennessee. But yeah, I feel like there's not enough PEI books. We need new ones. We need more stuff happening there to see other sides of it and like current stuff, that isn't just romance because I love Liz and everything, but romance.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Oh, Tammy says praying for continued healing. Yes,
Thank you.
sure. Flying within Canada is expensive. It's crazy.
Oh,
Yeah.
is it? Is it Canada that is
Yes.
the? Oh, okay.
Yeah. Now that where we live, it's a little better because it's just a little bit of a bigger place. But when we were in Saskatchewan, it was like generally cost a couple $100s to fly anywhere.
Wow.
Like more like 4 to 500 to go anywhere for one person. So
Wow.
yeah. Okay, Anne of Avonlea. Shatona, how many times have you read it?
I was thinking about it, and I think this is actually the 6th time, but this time I listened.
Yeah.
Because I read it, a bunch when the kids were little. I would read them sections and stuff. So I've read it a lot. But this time, I don't know what it was, but I totally forgot about Davy and Dora. How do you forget Davy and Dora?
I forgot
They're
about
like
this.
the best.
I forgot about this entire book. I was totally like, when I filmed my February TBR, I was like, yeah, she gets a bunch of proposals. Like, I got this idea. I'm like, no, that's
Yeah,
the
I
next
remember
book.
that.
That's the next book. That's not this book. I totally
Right?
forgot that this book happened. And also about Davy and Dora, too. So,
Yeah,
but I've
I
only read
totally
it one time, other than this time. So,
Now, how many times have you read it?
this was just my second time reading it.
Oh, it was just your second? Did I just miss you saying that? Sorry.
It's all good. It's all good. Had read Anne of Green Gables, I think it was 3 times. And I have only in the last few years read the entire series. So, yeah. Only my second time.
I had the whole thing with the platter. My mind had that in Windy Poplars. That's where that happened. And for years, I have talked about the receipt thing that she talks about, the receipt. It's a recipe. That's where I learned that. At first I thought she was a hick, who just didn't know the right word. And then, I find out, no, that's what they used to call recipes. But I have talked about that as an example for a decade at least, and I've always said it's in Windy Poplars, and it's not.
We just got proven wrong.
Yeah, again, I'm good at that.
It's all good. Me too. Driving to PEI from the States. Where in the States are you, Sarah?
Yeah.
That would be a long drive for some. For some.
For me, yeah, it's
I
like
think so in California.
opposite corners.
Tammy said this is the first read through.
Wow.
All the books from this one forward. Okay. Well, I'm looking forward to the next book because I was looking forward to it. Okay, from Pennsylvania. It wouldn't be too bad.
That's not too bad then. No.
You're at least on the right side-ish.
And not too far down.
Yeah. Okay. Do we want to share, like, you had thoughts about this book you wanted to share?
Oh yeah. No, I'm trying to think though. You'd have to get on a ferry or something, wouldn't you? I mean, it's an island.
Yeah. Prince Edward Island.
Yeah, so island. I mean, that would be kind of cool. I've not been on a ferry. All right, I'm gonna get in the car. I'll pick you up on the way to this thing. Oh goodness! Oh wow!
I
think there were 2 things that really jumped out a lot at me, and number one was how similar Davy and Paul Irving are at the core, and that they show it totally opposite. I mean, Davy is all out there and personal, but they both love and feel intensely, and they're just completely devoted to the people they love. But Davy doesn't know what to do with it, and he's very extroverted about it, and then it comes out all wrong. But Paul Irving is the same way, but he just keeps it closer and only trusts it. But it's really the same personality, which is fascinating to me. I'm like, I'd never noticed that. It was like, that's so cool.
So maybe Davy's the introverted version of the personality, and then Paul is the introverted. So he keeps it more in his head.
Yeah, he keeps it. He just keeps it with a few trusted people, whereas Davy is just out there with everyone. And when he doesn't know what to do, he is totally inappropriate in what he does. But it always seems to deal with feelings and just his imagination. He doesn't know how to handle imagination. I was fascinated. I just never caught that before.
That's an interesting thought. I haven't thought about it.
And they had another thing that was really similar. and did it in opposite ways every time. Davey's always wanting to know things. He's always asking questions, and he always ends with, "I want to know." Paul Irving does the same thing when he's making his observations and stuff. It's like the opposite, but he's making these. But then he says, "Teacher," and I was like, how did I never catch that she's got the? I don't know. Can you tell I can't talk without my hands?
Okay. Yeah, well, maybe that's why Davy is so jealous of Paul, especially at the beginning, because they're the same kind of person, but Paul is more socially acceptable in the way that he shares his processes, his thoughts, or whatever. Yeah, interesting.
And he did have I don't want to say a better upbringing, as much more than an involved upbringing.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I don't know that it's necessarily better. That grandma is sweet, but on the other hand,
just force that porridge down his throat.
All I could think of is I suddenly don't want porridge for a very long time.
Okay, Tabitha says this is her first time reading any L.M. Montgomery and loving it. Oh, yay. I'm glad. Yeah. Hot take. I like Davy and Paul and the kids Anne befriends more than any of Anne's kids. Honestly, though, I could barely name Anne's kids. I know Rilla.
Rilla and Walter. Walter is a little Paul-like.
True.
So
true.
But, I hated Rilla the first time I read that book. I hated the book. I thought it was terrible. And then I read it the second time, and I was wrong.
I hated it while I was reading it, and then loved it when I finished. So I get it.
Yeah. But yeah, Davy and I feel like Dora is who she is, out of like sheer survival with a brother like that.
Okay, well, I wanted to talk about Davy and Dora a little bit, so we can talk about them now since we're just going there. How many times did they mention, or did the book mention, how Dora was just this perfect angel, but yet they just did not love her like they loved Davy? And I can get it, I can understand it, but also my heart broke for Dora, who's just trying to be this perfect little child.
Just surviving. With a brother like that, what really got me was when he shut her in the whatever he shut her in. I can't remember what Woodhouse, Woodshed.
Yeah, some kind of outbuilding of some sort. I don't remember what it was, but
I was like, okay, up until then, you have been a kind of a one-dimensional character, but there, you get some emotion out of her, and you realize that she stuffs it in to protect herself. I'm like, oh my goodness, you poor little thing.
Yeah, well, and then Davy knew they were looking for her. They're looking down the well, and he says nothing.
No,
everyone feels bad for Dora. Yeah. That one, that was harsh.
Switching that boy in school is nothing on what I would have done to Davy over that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was his reasoning? Why did he want to do it anyway? I don't even remember.
It was boring. Everything was boring. He wanted to shake things up a bit because he was bored.
Oh, yeah. So some of his other things where he's a little bit, moves too fast and breaks things. I have a kid like this who just kind of doesn't think, and things happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I can understand that. But the intentional locking of your sibling up in a building on someone else's yard, right? Because it was on the guy with the...
Mr. Harrison?
Yeah, it was on his yard, right?
You might be right. I had forgotten that, but I think you're right.
Anne went to his house to go see, and that's when, and that's a whole different ball game here we're talking about.
Yeah. It is, but it is exactly, Montgomery knew kids because it's exactly how kids think. I can see Davy going, this is funny, and then start going, yeah, but how do I get out of it? And then I can't now. I'm going to get in trouble. So And just it makes it worse. It's kind of like there's someone in my family that did a similar thing, trying to prove that it was easy to steal a car. And then he realized that if he takes the car back, he did it, test drive. If he takes the car back, then it's no longer stolen. So how am I going to do this? And he ended up crossing state lines, which is a felony, while he's trying to work out how to steal a car without stealing a car. And this Davy thing feels very much like that to me, where like he just got himself in something and doesn't know how to get himself out.
Yeah. Catherine says she's a little concerned about how often they left 6-year-olds alone. Yeah, no kidding.
It was a little more common, though. I mean, when I was 9, my parents went to Vegas for the weekend. I mean, would I do that today? No. No.
And it depends to like different countries. I have a friend that when she was, I think, 13 or something, her parents and her older siblings moved countries and left her and a couple siblings home for years.
Years? Wow.
Yeah.
That's beyond my parents. Like,
what? And she's like, yeah. Like she doesn't feel like her parents left her or didn't love her or whatever, but I kind of feel like, are you sure they like you? Like they completely moved countries and they left you behind.
Why? I am unable to can.
The culture that they're from, I think that's just okay. I don't know.
Wow.
We've got a twin representing here, so she loves them. I like it.
So how accurate do you think the twinness is?
Good question. I was a Dora up until my teen years, always stuffing down any impulses to misbehave and trying to be the teacher's pet. Eventually, I came unhinged. And I bet no one locked you in a building, probably, most likely. Dora, we don't really follow her throughout the series, right? Like, we never hear...
I remember a vague something about, doesn't Davy get married? I remember something vague about that. But I'm trying to remember. I can't. I was wondering, did Dora have a bunch of little boys who were just like Davy and knew exactly how to handle them?
Oh, maybe.
I mean, can you imagine her going, I got this?
I can more see her just being like, I'm just going to go lock myself in the building now.
Yeah, right, yeah. Oh, goodness. I had a friend who used to lock herself in her pantry and eat chocolate chips when things got a little bit too much.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. Yeah.
The author of No Space Like Home, she did that.
There we go. Okay.
It was fun.
Apparently, this is accurate, twin accurate, because she has a twin brother. So
there you go.
Davy and Dora right there.
And Montgomery really liked twins.
Yes.
Did a lot of twin stuff. Was it just a lot at the time, or was it just too much fun to write about?
Did she do it outside of the Anne series, or was it just like, I'm trying to remember now.
I'm just remembering Mrs. Hammond and her 3 sets of twins.
Yes. But I can't remember if it's...
And didn't Anne had twins. Anne had Nan and Diana.
Right. Yes. True. Maybe she just thought they were very interesting. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't either. But it does make you wonder, Then there was that gal in Russia that had like 69 kids, and I don't remember how many sets of twins and triplets and like 1 set of quadruplets. I think it was crazy.
That's a lot of kids.
Yeah. 9 was sufficient. God was good, and I'm happy with those. But yeah, not 69. No.
I feel many days overwhelmed with 4. So
yeah, I did with 4 and with 5 and with 2 and with 1.
69's a little beyond my personal level.
Yeah. That's not a family. That's a school. I mean,
then I'd be locking myself in the pantry and eating some chocolate.
Yeah, indefinitely. Oh, goodness.
I loved when Marilla had to come up with excuses to go outside so she could laugh at Davy's silly statements. Yes.
Marilla, I just love what Anne did to Marilla.
Yeah.
Really.
if we didn't have the first book and Marilla just was now a parent of these 6-year-old twins, no Anne in existence, I think Marilla would have just lost it.
Yeah.
But Anne helped like round the corners a little bit, smooth out the edges, and
Break her in.
yeah. And now Marilla's realizing, oh, Anne was easy.
This was, what was I thinking? Well,
Yeah.
and she is right, though, because Davy does come off as kind of malicious with his crazy tricks. Anne never tried to do anything wrong. She just managed it anyway. Kind of like a lot of us, you know?
Yeah. Just a little bit accident prone. Like she generally had good intentions.
Yes.
Like with dyeing her hair, she just didn't want to have red hair anymore.
Yeah.
But it didn't always turn out so great.
Leaving the cover off the sauce and the flour out of the cake. And wasn't there a cake with liniment in it in
Yes.
one of them? Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
that was the first book, yeah.
how do you put liniment in it instead of vanilla? Oh my gravy. I mean, she had a cold. That's right. I was like, how do you not smell that? But yeah, she had a cold.
Yeah.
Oh, man. And I noticed something in this one and the last one because I just read those letters from Green Gables. And I noticed that, she had lots of questions, and sometimes they're stated as if like they're emphatic beliefs, like she denounced the deity of Christ in those letters. But I don't know if they're emphatic or not, or if it's a matter of her processing thoughts and it comes out as an absolute. I don't know. But I know, I love how her book, she puts Orthodox faith in there. She doesn't put those unless there's somebody else's, kind of off in the distances thoughts. And I wondered about that. I mean, she wrote for Sunday school papers, so that could have something to do for it. But, isn't it kind of fascinating how she did that?
Yeah. Yeah. Which is the letters from Green Gables? Like
it's letters that Lucy Maud Montgomery wrote to a guy from like 1905 to 1909. They were just writing back and forth, and it's all her side to him, but then there's these sections that what he wrote back. And I'm like, why didn't you just give the letters? You know what he wrote, so why don't we get both? But we don't. We only get her, because apparently only she counts. I mean, that just doesn't make sense. But they're fascinating. But I started thinking about and comparing it with what's actually in the books. And what's in the books is pretty orthodox. I mean, not in the capital O, but I thought it was fascinating.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'll have to look at that.
You have to send me your address. I can send you mine. Yeah, I don't have your new one.
One of the questions I was thinking, well, I read this somewhere that it was like a discussion question, is why is Anne so popular? And I was thinking about this. I was like, why is Anne so popular, whereas Lucy Maud Montgomery isn't really? Like, she's known to write Anne, but she's not known really for anything else. Even though, like, the diehards have read, like the Emily series and the Blue Castle and stuff like that. There's other great books that she's written, but like what made Anne so unique that she has kind of like just been this figure that people can recognize? If you draw a girl with red hair and braids, it's like, that's Anne.
Yeah. I don't know, because I think I noticed that people either tend to love her or really dislike her. I haven't run across very many people who have that. Yeah, she's okay. It's just, and the people who really dislike her, I always want to know, how similar to her were you, either inside or outwardly? Because I start wondering, is it like that parent who has trouble with one kid and then figures out that they're having trouble with a kid who's the most like themselves? So I wonder, but she's just, I think it's because she's just so real. She's just like out there. These are my faults. These are my foibles. These are my virtues. I've got it all. And I don't want to say she doesn't apologize for it, because the character herself does, verbally perhaps. But on the other hand, she is comfortable in her own skin, even with being comfortable in her own skin at times. It's really weird.
She like really does want to change and grow, especially when she sees herself making mistakes. But at the same time, she's like also aware of who she is and okay with it, with some little tweaks that she would like, kind of thing. Okay, Anne's jumping in. She thinks Anne is popular because of the 80s movie. Definite
Definitely helps.
possibility.
Yeah.
We were talking on the Patreon book club that I had on the weekend that Megan Follows, that played Anne, she is going to be in a TV series, and she will be playing Lucy Maud Montgomery, apparently. I don't know when that's supposed to come out, but...
That will be interesting. When I saw that, I was like, this could be great, or this could just be terrible.
Yes.
She will do a good job, but will they do a good job? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm hoping because she's, like, Megan Follows is in it, that hopefully that will keep it on the up and up. I mean, like, she's kind of just known to be the person that played Anne, so I would hope that she would kind of make sure it's done well.
I hope so.
I have not read the book that it's based off of. Like,
I don't know which one it's based off of. Which one is it?
I have it from the library right now. I forget what it's called. What is it called? The Gift of Wings.
Ooh, never heard of it.
It's really thick. But
I was looking at that.
It's just supposed to be her biography, but I had never heard of it. I don't know. But I'm curious to read this, and then whenever they release the series, I don't know how long it's supposed to be. Oh, Anne says it's amazing. Okay.
Ooh.
So that's good. Yeah, curious to see if they stick with it. But I do struggle reading L.M. Montgomery's biography stuff because how heavy her life was.
Yeah.
Which is like totally understandable. I get that, but I find it hard to read stuff like that. So
yeah, it is tough.
Now I'm behind in comments here. There's something so timeless about her character, the imagination and whimsy, her innocence and joy. Totally. Yeah. And I think that the people that like her, even if they are not like, oh, I'm just like Anne, can see themselves in like certain parts of Anne's personality. Whether it's like the innocence or the imagination or maybe the wild and craziness that sometimes comes out. And her ability to always find the good in a situation, she's really good at that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yet it's realistic. She's not a Pollyanna.
Yes. Yeah. Whimsically charming, wonderfully imaginative, and delightful. Yes. Yeah, my kids, they have been doing this homeschool curriculum. And the books that they read for it, it is a Mormon-based curriculum. And now we're putting the things together and we're realizing that it's like very moralistic and all the kids have to be good all the time and a little bit more Pollyanna-esque, which is just hard for kids to relate to because they are not perfect children.
Right.
Whereas someone like Anne that's getting herself into scrapes is much more relatable.
Well, especially since, again, her motivation isn't to be, a hot-headed gal who flies off the handle, and yet you poke her in just the right places. Not every time something irritates her, but you get just the right one, her hair, and boom, she just loses it. Well, kids can get that. If she just got angry over every little thing, kids would not relate to that either. It's just that one thing.
Yeah. Apparently Sarah's listening to The Gift of Wings on Audible, so it's good.
Ooh, I just got a new credit today.
There we go. 2 people saying it's great. So, and have you watched the Anne with an E TV series?
I have not. I couldn't
Apparently it's wild. You
I
what?
could not bring myself to do it after I read just a couple of little things. I'm like, no.
Yeah. I watched the first episode like way back when it came out, and then I've never watched anything beyond that. I think the cinematography is beautiful. I think it's very well filmed. I've read what they've done with Matthew, and I don't like where that goes. So,
I didn't read that. I read more about her life before they got there, and I
mm,
was just like, if you're gonna change that and you're gonna turn it to that, what are you gonna do with the rest? And I didn't want it ruined for me, so I didn't do it.
yeah.
I may have been wrong. There's two of them, isn't there? There are two new ones.
I don't know.
I feel like there's two. There's like Anne with an E, and then maybe just Anne. Am I right? I feel like there was two that came out fairly. I don't know.
You could be right. I wouldn't know. I'm not the person to talk to for that. So Anne became a teacher. She was 16 years old.
Right?
At 16, were you ready to teach? Like, could you have taught a classroom?
No. At 16, I thought I wanted to be a teacher. At 16, I was wrong. I graduated at 16, and let me tell you something. No, no.
I am impressed with how mature people were 100 plus years ago. At the same time, that's a lot of responsibility for a 16-year-old. Like,
Yeah. But then Laura Ingalls was 15.
was she when she started?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. She was 15.
At 16, I did not want to be a teacher, but then I did end up going to university. So for that and getting my degree. So we don't know what we want at 16, apparently.
No, I don't think we know at 18.
No.
Sorry. There's a siren somewhere. They're outside, but Davy would approve.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
I don't know how to mute this. Is there a way to mute it?
Yeah, I'll mute you for a bit. There we go. You're muted for right now. This, I think, is talking about Anne with an E. Really liked it till I read the book and realized they painted a different picture of Matthew. Yeah. So with Anne with an E, Shatona, whenever you want to be unmuted, let me know, or if you can figure it out. But yeah, from what I know, they painted him as suicidal, and that's not his character at all. I could see if that's not how the book labeled it, that might make for an interesting show, but that's not what he is. So you're good there. I will unmute you. There you go. Yeah.
Thank you. Those poor dogs. But yeah, no.
Tammy taught at 23. Wasn't ready at that age. Went back 7 years later, better prepared, much more mature. Yeah. I feel like now I could teach, but I also don't want to now. Other than my kids.
Yeah, teaching mine was hard enough. I can't imagine other people's children who you really have no authority over.
You know what? That's actually what I really noticed. So when I don't know how many years it was from when I graduated high school to when I was teaching. Because I took a couple years off, but then I did my teaching degree in 2.5 years instead of the 4 I was supposed to take. So it was probably like 4 years later. I was probably 22-ish. And in those 4 years, they changed where you couldn't give a 0 grade to kids. If they didn't hand stuff in, if they didn't do any work, you still could not give them a 0. You could never give doc points for things being late. So they could hand something in months later and you couldn't dock any marks for that. And I was like, I don't know how to teach in this, because how are you going to motivate these kids to do anything in this environment if you can't? Yeah.
I don't understand.
Yeah.
This teaches them nothing about the real world that everybody is so concerned about. In the real world, if you don't turn in your work to your employer until months after it was due, you aren't still there months later to turn it in.
Yeah.
This is not being helpful. This is not being encouraging. This is actually, I consider it educational abuse, but nobody would agree with me. But she was a good teacher. She had her lofty ideals. And
Yes.
I really loved what she said. I thought she handled it really well. When she lost it with the Sloan kid, what is his name? It's driving me nuts. I want to call him Artie. I want to call him Jeb. I want to call him.
What, like Anthony, wasn't it Anthony Pye, that one?
Oh, it was Pie, not Sloan. Okay, it makes so much more sense that it's
I
Pie.
think so.
You're right. It's the Pie. That just solves everything. But she had this ideal that she was going to win him over, and then lost it in a reasonable. When your tooth hurts, okay, I'm just saying, she loses it, and then when they're saying, well, he deserved it. Well, technically, yeah, he did. But she didn't do it because he deserved it. She did it because she was ticked, and she knew that that was wrong. And I loved how Montgomery brought that in, didn't hide the fact that this kid had earned his punishment, but shouldn't have gotten it because of why she did it. I thought that was just brilliant.
I think that's would have been really weird for the time, because like corporal punishment was all fine and good in the classroom and stuff. What was this? I hated Jane Andrews and her methods, but when you think about her age and responsibility she had, I could see why corporal punishment was appealing. Yeah, and these kids, these girls are sometimes the same age, right, as the kids they were teaching.
Yeah.
And so it would be hard to have any control or anything over them if you can't have a little bit of a threat hanging over their heads, I imagine. Like, depending on the families that some of these kids would have come from, like, that maybe would be the only thing that would have worked. I don't know.
Anne had it especially hard because she was teaching in the very school. She went to school with these kids. She played with them.
Yeah.
And now
Mm-hmm.
that would be hard.
Yeah, I can't imagine that. I mean, I don't think if I would have gone back to, if I would have gone to teaching after school and I was teaching some of the people that had been in my grade or the grade below me, like, oh, that would have just been chaos.
Yeah. Well, I think Jane's smugness was it was the worst. She was kind of a thunder puppy. She knew it all. I mean, they both kind of were, but in totally different ways. I mean, when you're young and you're that age, you think you know all the answers, and then life shows you that you don't. And it takes some of us a little longer, but hey, we get there eventually. But Jane, it was the smugness with which she had her. This will be the thing. And then when Anne fell to her level, in my opinion, just reactionary discipline instead of intentional, then Jane's all smug, and I'm thinking, you missed the important part. I mean, Gilbert at least got it.
Speaking of Gilbert, he really wasn't in the book very much this time around.
Which I kind of like. I like that slight distance so that we can focus on who Anne has become, because in the first book, Anne is very out there with her imagination and her trying to become who she is. And then by the end of it, which I always remember being in this book, but no, at the end of that, she starts pulling back a little, becomes a little quieter. And I did not remember that being in that one. I remembered it all in this one. But, if we get to see this new Anne, we kind of have to get to know her again, because she is a little different, and yet she's still who she is.
Yeah. Yeah, she definitely like mellows out in like the end of Anne of Green Gables with Matthew's death, and then in this book, very, very least thing was very little bit Gilbert, yeah. But there's some major foreshadowing there, right?
Yes.
We know kind of when and where things are happening here then. Got curious to see if Anne spanks her own kids, and it says she does, or it says Susan doesn't let her spank Shirley.
Right.
I don't remember all the details.
Yeah, I remember that Susan prevented, I think, both Anne and Gilbert from disciplining Shirley at all. It's amazing he wasn't a mess. And I still have a hard time with Shirley being a he.
Yeah. I forgot that was one of her kids, but yes, yeah. So there's Shirley, there's what you said, Nan and Diana. There's Rilla and Walter.
Jem. the
Jem.
oldest. Yeah. And there's that one kid that I always miss. Anne and Diana. Oh, come on.
I have my books here. It probably says, but I most of them didn't make a big impression. So
Oh man. And honestly, that dog made a bigger impression on me than Jem did. That dog was amazing. And Anne at that train station the day that Jem left was absolutely phenomenal. And I hope I would be as strong of a mother as she was there. She was brilliant. But that's not this book.
yeah, Lindy, they're trying to help here. Walter, Jem, yeah, we listed both of those.
Jem, Nan and Diana, Rilla, Shirley. Wait a minute, that's 6.
Okay, so that was all of them?
Yeah, we did have them all. Okay. Doesn't she have 6? And then the baby that didn't live?
Maybe. I like I said, I don't remember. I remember some of them. Now that
Yeah.
you're listing them, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that one, but I wouldn't remember like if we forgot one.
Yeah. I think there's only the 6.
Okay, I'll trust you.
Yeah. But I also think that I don't think Anne would have been spanking children left and right just for, oh, you're annoying me, so I'm going to spank you. It would have to be pretty serious. She would find other ways to deal with situations, because a lot of things, there's much better ways to deal with situations. But there are some kids that there is a direct connection, and I can see her going, well, okay, if this is what it takes, we got to get it through to you. But I don't see her being, I see it being really incredibly hard for her to
Yeah.
consider.
Mm-hmm. Even seeing how she reacted in Anne of Avonlea, the one time she hit Anthony Pye, it's like I think that would stick with her through her mothering.
Yeah. I don't think she'd let herself, because that's what she did. She didn't spank Anthony Pye. She hit him because she was angry and retaliating. She wasn't trying to discipline in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah. So I feel like in this book we really didn't have much Gilbert. We had a little bit of Diana, but not very much. Obviously we had no Matthew. Rachel Lynde was in there a bit, and Marilla a bit.
Mr. Harrison.
Yeah, I was going to say like the old characters kind of faded, and then we've got some new characters. Mr. Harrison, am I going to remember any of them now? Well, like Davy and Dora,
Right.
and then Paul, Miss
Miss
Lavender. And so we kind of let some of those other characters simmer for a bit while we got to know some new people. Did you have a favorite new character that came through?
Well, okay, Paul is definitely a favorite, but yeah, I really love Mr. Harrison. He's awesome. I mean, he's so messed up, and yet on the other hand, he's like the grown-up male Anne without any good training.
I 100% forgot that he was married. Like that was news to me again this time. I was like, "What? There's a woman that's his wife?" Like
I just remember I was waiting, and as soon as that storm happened and the parent died, I was like, oh, here it comes, and I'm watching and I'm waiting, and but I did forget how well she and Rachel Lynde got along, and I was like, is this supposed to be like this super condensed, here is her personality for you without having to say a word thing? If they're instant friends, we know who she is. I mean, that was pretty brilliant.
it was, and how much Mr. Harrison disliked Rachel Lynde. So then I'm like, oh, so if his wife is supposed to have the same personality, then doesn't say good things.
No.
Catherine,
Or it could just be guilt. She reminds him of it, so he doesn't like her because he knows come on, he had to know he was in the wrong. I mean, don't get me wrong, she had issues and she needed to get over some of them, but come on.
Yeah.
I would not tolerate a swearing parent and I can tolerate a lot, but I'm not. No, just no.
Catherine found Paul annoying. Is it that I'm Team Ginger and his wife can shove it? Depends on the person, I guess.
Ooh, that's worse. I'm turning that back off.
Is your light fading?
Yeah.
My sun has gone down here.
We'll just say faded, and I'll be ghosty, and that's fine.
Loved Miss Lavender and Paul Irving. That I remember, I remember how Miss Lavender and all that worked out, and so I was just waiting for that. I thought that was a bigger portion of the book, though.
And Carlotta, she is amazing.
Yes, Carlotta the Fourth. That whole bit, I loved. I loved her as a character. The fact that she just keeps, Miss Lavender just keeps calling all these girls Carlotta, and they're like, okay with it.
Right,
that was great.
And I just love the fact that she was the sort of character that Paul Irving actually needed in his life. And yet she wasn't like the perfect character either. I mean, she had her moments, but he needed someone who understood his whimsy.
Yeah. Yeah, I was glad that all, I mean, I remembered, but the first time I was glad that all worked out.
Well, especially since that story is very similar to Marilla's story. Mm-hmm. We both had the same story, and we had two very different endings.
Yeah. Yeah. I know, that's interesting. Yeah.
And if Marilla had the same ending, then even if Anne had come for reasons that make no sense, I mean, logically, we would have a Gilbert-ish son for Marilla. I mean, he wouldn't be the same, but he would, and so you're like, it worked out best. You want to give God the credit for something that never happened.
Yeah. Marilla and Rachel moving in together. I don't remember like how it goes in the next few books, but like just judging based on their personalities, I mean, I'm sure it'll work out fine because it's a book, and I'm sure it will, but I don't know how that would really go. Marilla's pretty good at letting things not bother her, maybe. So that maybe is.
And they gave Rachel her own kitchen. That was kind of a cultural thing at the time. Basically, if a woman had her own kitchen, then her life would be fine. And I'm like, well, that's a little. Yeah, it's a little.
Yeah. But I don't know, because like Rachel had Thomas, was that his name? Her husband?
Yeah.
She had him to boss around.
Right.
So where was she going to funnel that bossiness now that he's gone? Like, I feel like things wouldn't go very well in reality.
But really, on the other hand, she had more experience with children like Davy and Dora. And so she would be able to boss those kids around, but she would also let them beat kids more easily than Marilla is.
True.
Yeah, so maybe, I don't know.
I think if I had my own kitchen, I could live with almost anybody.
I'm perfectly happy to let someone else have the kitchen as long as they feed me too. That's more time for writing. So, if you feed me too, you can have the kitchen all to yourself.
Yeah, I think I'm just so introverted in a way that I don't want to like use up my people energy by living with other people. I mean, maybe you would get comfortable and that wouldn't use up the battery, but like right now, I just imagine that wouldn't, I couldn't do it.
No.
But
there's a reason that I flourish well with my sleep schedule.
Yeah, you have a strange sleep schedule.
Yeah, so it helps.
Then, like, if you were trying to live with someone different,
might work. I'd be sleeping during their best hours. So.
it might work, or it might get annoying if they make too much noise, or you make too much noise, or I don't know.
Yeah, that's true. I'd have to have a summer house. I'd have to have a shed edifice on Green Gables. There we go.
There you go.
Go.
So what is your schedule right now?
I go to bed at 6 in the morning and I get up at about 2 in the afternoon.
Yeah, and you've been doing that for a number of years, right?
Yeah, at least 10, at least.
And that just works better for you.
Yeah.
Maybe you live in the wrong time zone.
It could be. I do manage to be on normal people time for a short amount of time when I am closer to the East Coast, which it should be the other direction, but I don't know. It works.
It's interesting.
I was fine in England.
Maybe you were meant to live there.
Right? I'm telling you, it's like, send me back to Scotland. I'm good. I really am ghostish, aren't I? Oh, well.
It's all good. It's all good. Okay, I didn't remember this. We don't really see how it goes with Marilla and Rachel. They show up less and less after this book.
Yeah.
I guess because we're with Anne at university next, right. And then Wendy Poplar's is Letters, where she's living somewhere else. And then where does it go?
Is that where she's teaching somewhere else?
Yeah, I think so, or something.
Yeah, and Gilbert's at medical school.
Yeah, and then we're at Anne of Ingleside already, so.
No, their House of Dreams comes next.
Oh, yeah, I have.
Poplar's is House of Dreams.
Yeah, that's right. I had a book missing here. Yeah.
Near St. Mary Mead. I love these names. They're just so awesome. And I always think of St. Mary Mead, and then I'm like, it reminds me a little bit of whatever the name of the one is for
Miss Marple. Hers is St. Mary's Mead.
Oh, is it? Okay, so there's a St. Mary Glen then? Is that what it is? St. Mary Glen? There's a St. Mary something that they live in.
Glen St. Mary.
Glen St. Mary. Okay. Close enough for government work.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Oh, I haven't found out if my husband got fired today or not. They were told to send emails saying what they did, last week, and from the upper government, but his bosses and like the whole Department of the Navy said no, don't send those emails. So he obeyed his current bosses, and now we'll find out if he actually has a job or not.
Oh, fun.
Yeah. It's a good thing he was ready to retire.
Definitely meant to live in England. Yes, me too. I mean, I've been stuck on the Canadian prairies, so it's not quite England. Any other thoughts? I think I touched on a lot of it. I tabbed a bunch of stuff, but I didn't write myself very many notes this time because I think I was a little disappointed it wasn't Anne of the Island. Oh, okay. There were some comments about ministers and ministers' wives. This was Mrs. Sloane talking about Mrs. Allen moving. Though I always did think that Mrs. Allen dressed rather too gay for a minister's wife. Right. But it wasn't perfect. Like, shouldn't the minister's wife just look the happiest of them all?
Right.
And there was another thing about a minister that kind of preached terrible sermons, and Rachel Lynde thought it was indigestion because his wife didn't cook well, and he would have better theology if she cooked better. I'm glad people don't talk like this now, right? Or do they? And I just don't hear it. But I had to read that to Jared because he is a pastor, so I was like, here's what people could be saying about you.
Don't you wish you knew? Yeah, keep me in ignorance. I'll just have my indigestible food, and you can just dislike his theology. It's an interesting combination of how people were, though, because I remember reading other books that had similar thoughts. It was a thought of the day, and we saw a tiny hint of it, I think, in Anne of Green Gables. But in this one, the prejudice against the French came in stronger, I thought.
Maybe. I don't remember it. But
they had, and like in, was it in Kilmeny where the prejudice against the Italians was so ridiculous.
Yes. That one I remember for sure.
I did not like that. I did not like that book. But I noticed, I remember that not really catching that it was a prejudice as much the first time I read Anne of Green Gables until I read this one, and then that kind of came back this time. It's like, oh yeah, they really did kind of, any foreigner. I mean, even the like Americans, they have this idea that Americans are such and such, and sometimes they're totally right, and other times they're completely wrong. It's like, where did you come up with that?
Yeah.
You know, and but then on the other hand, is it true? We're American, because you know we're going from today. This is all we know. We're Americans. We don't know. I don't know. Maybe we were even more messed up than I thought we were. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely some of the characters for sure. Like, is it Rachel Lynde really hates Americans, the Yankees, and all that? Yeah,
People.
definitely prejudice towards anyone different.
Yeah,
Like,
even to a certain extent, you can kind of get a hint that they're even prejudiced against people who aren't on the island. You know, mainlanders are just, you know, well, I mean, she's from insert place here. I mean, I don't think Edmonton comes into this one, but it comes into one of them when Jane gets engaged, I think, and someone I think makes a comment. Isn't her millionaire, Jane's millionaire from Edmonton?
oh, I don't remember.
I think so.
Yeah, I don't know, but they do, like, they talk about Toronto and stuff quite a bit, and those people are always like, rich and like don't really know the island. Yeah, so
Yeah,
definitely a prejudice towards anyone that's not from there,
which is common for pretty much anywhere, but
especially like the smaller place that you go. I think the
yeah.
more it happens. Anyone in the comments have any other comments about the book, thoughts, anything that jumped out? Or you, Shatona, anything else?
I think, well, I could probably talk about it all day, but that's not really helpful. I'm trying to think of who my least favorite character is. And it's kind of weird. I don't know that I have one because I like the people I don't like because of what they do for the books. I don't even know if that counts. I would say Dora is the flattest character until that moment in the woodhouse or whatever that is, woodshed. I think it's a woodshed. Don't quote me on that.
It's just on the internet. It's okay.
Yeah, this is no big deal. You can never get rid of that one.
Yep.
But then I've been talking about, you know, for years getting it wrong. So what's one more?
Yeah. Oh, Lindsay's got one here. A quote. Anyhow, there'll be plenty of jam in heaven. That's one comfort. Why should we love God? It says because he makes preserves and redeems us. Yes. Preserves is just a holy way of saying jam.
Yes.
I forgot. That is so great. Yeah.
My son did something very similar. He asked what we were singing Up from the Grave. And he was like, why is Jesus in the gravy? And why does he become a rose? and my daughter, who's just, you know, a couple years older, she's like, well, the rose, he's the Rose of Sharon. We just sang that, you know, and I'm just going, you can't make this stuff up.
Maybe their theology is bad because they have indigestion.
Right, exactly. We should have eaten before we went to church, apparently.
Maybe some preserves. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, that was a good one. There's a lot of good quotes in this one, and I meant to have a sheet with them, and I forgot to.
Least favorite character is Jane Andrews, the child hater.
You know, actually, I didn't like Jane as much in this one.
I don't feel like she was in it much. Like, I mean, she had some major moments.
Improvement Society.
I forgot about the Improvement Society.
I forgot about the Improvement because that was a hoot. I had forgotten about painting the building. And what color was this blue that was so horrific that they would, you know, I mean, was it really that ugly or was it just that unusual of a color?
Yeah, I don't know.
I know, but that one just cracks me up. And I did love the fact that everyone kind of sided with them instead of,
Yeah, somehow that
was kind of neat because that's not what you expect.
it turned everyone onto their side, kind of thing. Yeah.
I liked that twist. That was a good twist.
Oh yeah, and there was St. Clair Donnell.
Oh yes, that mother. Oh my gravy. Yeah.
I mean, I'm just like the kind of person that I would just like, okay, you came up and you said that to me, now I just want to call him John or whatever it was that
Jack. I think he wanted to be Jack.
Whatever, yeah.
Yeah, I probably would have said, I'll discuss this with your husband and let you know what he has to say about it. And gone from there. I mean, who's really paying in those days? Who is really paying my salary? I'm just saying. So yeah.
Oh, you got a fangirl.
Hi. She's the best.
She's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Good to see she's still alive.
Right? And heading back to Indiana, which is good.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking forward to this. Although I was picturing you just a little closer to Michigan than you were. And so I was like, well, it's only like probably 12 or 15 hours now. And yeah, no, you're actually closer to me than she is to you.
Yeah.
Right now.
She's not sure she's alive though.
The alive part, yeah. So, but you're off work tonight? Cool.
Should we just all leave so that you can talk to your daughter? Talk to Shalise here?
It's really funny. She's probably waiting for Bible study too. Bible study comes after that, and we'll be there to torment everybody else. So, yeah.
Okay, well, I think we've kind of covered everything. So, well, let's just see this here. Miss Lavender's romance. Yeah. Oh, you were lonely for many years before the relationship and marriage to your husband. So then you can relate to it. That's cool. Yeah.
It's how I like romance. I like it as a side plot and not too deeply. I don't want to live your feels and emotions because they're yours. I got issues.
When Mrs. Rachel Lynn said, as for that Donnell woman, she'll get no Donnellin from me.
Yes.
I always like it when Rachel Lynn sides with Anne because I feel like they had such a hard start.
Yes.
Or at least like sticks up for Anne or whatever. Like,
right? Yeah.
That's good.
Well, and it goes to show that as messed up as she can be, aren't we all? But she wasn't so full of her own self-importance that she couldn't yield.
Yeah.
She learned and grew too. And so that, you gotta kind of give her a little credit.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks everyone for joining us. Thank you, Shatona, for being here.
Thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it.
And if you guys have made it through the first 2 books, I think it just gets better after this. Next one I really like. Really, really like.
Yeah.
So.
Looking forward to this. It's been a while.
Great. So thanks everyone for joining us. We'll see you next month.
Yeah.